Welcome to my show. This is The Powers in You, and today I have this amazing guest. I've been waiting for a long time to have her on my show, and you see her right here. This is Lago. Amberly, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good. I was excited to connect with you, and I'm just grateful to be here. So, thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, thank you. You've got this amazing story, and this isn't your first interview about it, but can you share with the audience a little bit about what happened to you, how old you were, and this is a life-changing deal. Can you just
Well, yeah, I think we all go through so many challenges in life, and we get to a point where we have to make a decision about, well, am I going to let this define me? What am I going to do with what's left? How can I transform? And I've learned so much over the past 10 years. It was 10 years ago when my real transformational journey began, and I learned so much. One of the biggest lessons was, thank goodness, perfection is not a necessity, that it's just progress. Because I think that for so many of us, we have these high standards of what we hold ourselves up to do or be. And we're all human, just trying to do our best. And so 10 years ago, I had a career in fitness. I was making six figures. I had employed several people. Life was good. I had a brand new baby with my husband, who was the love of my life. And everything changed when I was hit by an SUV coming home from work on my motorcycle. I was thrown about 30 feet down a busy street. And when I finally, came to a stop, I only looked down once at my leg, and I held on to it because I really thought it was going to fall off. I mean, it was broken into pieces, and it's crazy to look down, and, I immediately felt pain. And it's interesting. Somebody asked me in the hospital, they were like, well, did it hurt? And I was like, yes, it hurts when an SUV hits you. It hurt immediately. The pain was like no other. And I mean, I've had two kids, I've done natural childbirth, and this was just unexplainable. I was, screaming. Little did I know, and I'm glad I didn't realize, that my femoral artery was severed, because you can bleed out pretty quickly from it when your femoral artery is severed. I feel like I had a guardian angel. To this day, I still don't know who this man is, but he came over to the scene. He took his belt off and made a tourniquet on my leg, and he really saved my life. I was rushed to the hospital, and I remember being in the ambulance and looking at the paramedic and squeezing his leg as hard as I could. And I was looking at him, trying to make some kind of eye contact to say, like, am I going to be okay? What's going on? And he wouldn't look at me. And that's when I thought, oh my gosh, I might be dying. Am I dying? And then the pain was so bad, I wanted to die. I thought death has to be better than this. And so, we went to the emergency room. It was chaotic. Um, my husband, who's this big, strong man, he's a first responder. I had never seen him cry. He was crying hysterically, pacing back and forth in the ER. I was taped to the gurney, and I yelled across the room, honey, get over here. I need you to be strong for me. And it was because I didn't know if I was going to make it or not. And I needed to know that he was going to pull it together and be there for our kids. And the last thing I remember before I was put in induced coma was him holding my hand, and this beautiful nurse, her name is Shaniqua. She leaned over me and she said, you know what, we're going to give you something to make you feel all better. And the next thing I know, I didn't know how long I had been in a coma, but I woke up with, tubes down my throat. I couldn't talk, and doctors told me they were going to amputate my leg. And, you know, I was a professional dancer. I loved running. That was my medicine. Fitness was my life. And they said, well, you basically your leg is like a war wound. There's nothing we can do for it. You've got a 1% chance of saving it, so we're going to amputate it. And I said, well, there's 1% chance. Well, then there's a chance. And it took an act of God, 34 surgeries, months in the hospital, amazing doctors, the support of loved ones, and they were able to piece by piece put my leg together. And then day in and day out has been just the journey from then on that led me here with you. And I would really, love to share some of the lessons that I've learned along the way, because, it was really challenging to have surgery after surgery, but the real lessons came after, when I was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome, which is a nerve disease dubbed the suicide disease because it's ranked highest on the pain scale. There's no known cure, and it leaves you in constant chronic pain. So that is when I really had to make some decisions about, this can't be the rest of my life. I don't want to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I mean, there's my little brother has lived in a wheelchair his whole life. There are plenty of people that do just fine in wheelchairs, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted my life back. But what I got was something so much more. And I think sometimes we have to focus on not trying to get, resilience is not about, to me, not about bouncing back. It's about bouncing forward and reinventing yourself. And it may be hard, especially now with times are tough. People have lost their jobs. We're in California. I live in California, even though, you can probably hear I'm originally from Texas. But we're still pretty locked down here. And my office is now in my home. My daughter's downstairs doing her homeschooling. So we're all just trying to figure things out. And I just want to say transformation is possible. So if, you're sitting here, you're listening to this, or you're hearing this, I just want you to know that no matter what your circumstances are, you have the ability to rise above that, reinvent yourself, still love life. That is what resilience is being able to get back up and get back up better. So
Right.
sorry, that was a little bit of a mouthful.
That was perfect. And, I interviewed this guy who's a quadriplegic, and he's, at 25, he was in an accident and quadriplegic. And I was talking to him about, how did you get out of depression? And he said, well, Leora, it could have been worse. I could have been blind, or I could have been brain damaged. And I thought, oh my gosh, like what, so people that have gone through these traumas, and to get back up and to be this, power source for so many people, how long did it take you to recover from all of that, like going through physical therapy and doing all of that? What was the time frame to get back where you were walking on your leg?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I think so often, we hear interviews and people talk about how, they have this wonderful life or all their accomplishments. And you know what, to be completely transparent with you, I'm still recovering. I mean, every day is still hard. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's easy, because living with constant chronic pain is, every day is a new day. You don't know how bad, especially living with this nerve disease, you don't know how bad it's going to be. And so that's why I've really had to shift my mindset, really pivot my mindset and decide that every day I'm going to strengthen my resilience so I can keep moving forward. And so, but it took me, I have people, I sent out a newsletter, and in the newsletter, there was a picture of me jumping. And I had a lady who had a car accident and brain damage. She said, I just read your newsletter and I'm so depressed. And I was like, oh no, that's not what it's about. I don't want you to be depressed from my newsletter. It's for inspiration. And she goes, well, you can jump and I can't jump and I so want to jump. And I said, but you just recently had brain surgery. I said, it took me years to be able to jump. I mean, it took me 4.5 months to be able to get out of a hospital bed and use the bathroom on my own. I mean, I was using a bedpan and had to depend on people to carry my bedpan for me. I mean, there's nothing more humiliating, I think, than not even being able to use the bathroom on your own. And so it was so many days of just being able to stand up out of my bed for literally 1 second at a time, 2 seconds at a time,
Right.
3 seconds. And I would set these little goals every day. But it started with, I remember I was so excited to be home from the hospital, and doctors originally said that, well, you'll never run again. You'll never wear shorts again because your leg is so scarred up. And then I had one doctor say, you'll be wheelchair bound for the rest of your life. And so I was determined to try to walk again. And I remember I was so excited to be home, and I had this physical therapist come over, and she came over. I had a hospital bed set up in the house, and she said, okay, go ahead and lift your right leg up. And I said, okay. And it wouldn't move. I couldn't move my leg. It wouldn't move. And I remember thinking, is it paralyzed? Am I ever going to be able to move my leg? And fear came over me, like, oh my gosh, my leg won't move. And so the next day she came over, move your leg, couldn't do it. The third time she came over, move your leg. And I concentrated so hard and I willed, and it was like there wasn't a connection from my brain to my leg. And I finally really willed my leg, and I was able to move it and pick it up off the bed. So it has been so many baby steps. And I think it's so important to look back to see how far you've come, because man, I can be so hard on myself and think, oh, I didn't do a good job at that presentation, or I didn't post enough this week, or I didn't write another blog, or my client's not doing as well as I had intended. And it's like, we have to look at what we're in control of and really give ourselves the gift of grace, and celebrate our small victories along the way. Because, it's like sometimes for me, it was, 2 steps forward and 7 steps back, so it took, like I said, 4.5 months to where I could stand, but that was only for seconds at a time. It took a lot of, thousands of hours of excruciating physical therapy where, my leg was stuck straight and I would have to sit in a chair, and it was either, I had a choice. They could put me in another surgery and break the knee joint, like manipulate it to where my leg would bend. Or they said, or you can work on it every day and try to do it yourself. And so I went to physical therapy every single day, and I sat in a chair with a machine that would slowly crank my leg down to where I could finally bend it. And then I could finally bend it to where I could bend my knee over to get it, the pedal around on the stationary bike. And so, it took me about 2 years, but I ran again on the beach with my daughter, and it was one of the most emotional days. And there I was running with her, and I would fall down and cry with tears of joy, and get back up and fall down and cry with frustration. And it's like, we just keep putting one foot in front of the other and do our best, and really live in the moment. And I think be grateful for what we can do, because I feel like when we're in gratitude, and I really so believe that has changed my life, it really focuses on what we can do instead of what we can't do. And it really puts the focus on what we have instead of what we don't have. And so I think resilient people really choose wisely where they're putting their attention. And I think it's very important to focus on the cans and not the can'ts.
You said something the same as that gentleman David said, and what I teach is baby steps. And when you're a baby, you fall down and then everybody applauds, like, yay, good job, get up and do it again. And we kind of have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the difference, and how is it, how would you say that, what makes you resilient where the other person, we have a choice to get up in the morning, and you talked about that. You said, I got up in the morning and I made a conscious choice, and I do, no matter how much pain I'm in, to try to override it.
Mm-hmm.
What is that spirit inside of you that other people may not have? How do you explain that? Like, some people, they try and then they fail and they try. What do you think that is?
Well, I am no different from anyone else. I'm not special. We all have resilience within us, but the difference is, and it took me a while to learn this. Some people just don't know yet how to tap into that resilience. And so that is, I remember I was coming home from an event, and my girlfriend looked at me and she said, Amberly, she asked me the same question. What is it about you? What do you do every day that allows you to go stand up in an event where a lot of people with complex regional pain syndrome can't get out of bed? And believe me, there are days when I can't get out of bed. I mean, just yesterday, I was sitting here in my office with my leg propped up, and my husband was like, "You don't look well." And I'm like, "I don't feel well." But then today's a new day. I got up. I decided that I was going to ride the stationary bike, even though I didn't feel like it, because I knew that it would make me feel better. So there is something that I do every day. I have a short word for it to really like quickly snap me into, am I being resilient? Why am I tired? What have I not done? What do I need to do more of? And it's PACER, and it stands for perspective, acceptance, community, endurance, and rest. And as long as I'm doing those things, then I'm going to be more resilient. Now, I already talked about
Say that again. So PACER, PACER.
Mm-hmm. And it stands for perspective, because we have the ability to change our life with a simple shift in perspective. It's not necessarily what happens or what our circumstances are, but it is how we view them. And so we talked about gratitude. One of the quickest ways and easiest ways to shift your perspective and feel better about your situation is to focus on gratitude. Count your blessings. Hunt for the good, look for the silver lining. And sometimes that may be hard, but I promise you there's always something to be grateful for. And I mean, even yesterday when I was sitting here on my chair with my leg propped up, I could be grateful that I had the ability to walk, that I have both my legs, that, I can get out of a hospital bed, that I can still do so many things, that I'm sitting here with you today. I was looking forward to seeing you. So I think with gratitude, it's an easy way to shift our perspective. And I also too think of, well, it could always be worse. And I always think that, like, well, it could be worse. That's how I could shift my perspective to make me feel better about my situation. And then the A in PACER stands for acceptance. And acceptance was really, really hard for me to learn. I did not want to accept that the way I looked, my leg was completely scarred up. My leg's deformed from the knee down. It's all metal. My ankle's fused. My toes don't bend. And you don't realize how much you depend on just your toes to help you balance, to wear flip-flops, I mean,
Yeah.
so many little things you don't realize until those things are taken away. But I didn't want to accept that I was going to be diagnosed with this nerve disease. And when a doctor told me, this is forever, you're going to be permanently disabled, it wasn't until I really took a good hard look at my life, where I was, that I could go, oh, well, this is what it is. These are the cards I've been dealt. I'm going to play the hell out of these cards. And so when you really accept something, it's not necessarily surrendering or admitting defeat, but it's looking at your situation and then being able to take some action steps to make your life better. But if you don't take a look, if you don't admit that something's wrong, if you don't accept that, you're not happy in your job or relationship, then how can you take steps to fix it? And so acceptance is the first part to really recovering and making your life the best that it can be. The C in PACER stands for community. I would not be able to do all of the things that I do without my community. I mean, right before we started interviewing, you asked me how I was doing, and I was like, I'm good. I'm doing this 30-day challenge that I created, and I didn't feel like working out today, but I did it because I'm doing this challenge with my community. And when you connect with people who are going through similar things, or you connect with people who have been through, trauma, or they're, struggling and they've overcome it, it gives you hope. And when you can connect with people that go through similar things, it's magic, because you think, well, they got through it. I can get through it too. I'm not alone. And that's the thing. We are not meant to do hard things alone. We're meant to connect. And so I think community is maybe one of the most powerful parts of PACER. Just knowing that somebody's got your back, or you can lean in, or you can share your darkest, deepest secrets or moments with someone, and they can say, I feel you, I understand it, but we're going to get through this together. And it takes a lot of endurance, and that's the next part of PACER. And I believe endurance, we all need to work on our stamina, especially getting through every day of going through these challenging times with COVID right now. And I think endurance is about having grit. It's where your passion and your perseverance comes into play. I believe that, endurance is really deciding that you're going to get up again and again every day. And I think that your daily habits really lead to your success. So I think that endurance comes not just from being motivated, because we all lose motivation, but it's really digging deep to discover, what is your why? Why are you doing something? And when you're having a hard time, focusing on that why. So it's not just about, enduring pain, but it's giving yourself the gift of grace and resting. And that's the last part of PACER, which is something I struggle with a lot, because I was taught growing up that, resting meant quitting, and I didn't want to be a quitter. But resting is not quitting. Resting is refueling and rebooting yourself. It's really finding the time to carve out in your schedule. I mean, as we sit here, you should see my notes. I've got my calendar out. I've got sticky notes everywhere. And if I don't schedule a time on my calendar to rest, or to even have a lunch break for myself, or to work out, or do some sort of self-care, I just won't do it. And I have found that I will easily just drive myself into the ground with, because I love to give. I love to show up for others, but we have to show up for ourselves.
Well, you are amazing. And I mean, you've got an amazing story, but you're also this amazing woman, spirit, uh, essence. So I thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
everybody.
You're just such an angel. You have such a beautiful heart. The moment I met you, I just felt such a connection. And thank you for all you do, constantly giving so much of your heart and your time, and for having me on. I really appreciate being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.